Hey guys, welcome back to another video. In today's video, I want to talk about some updates that I really want to see in 2021. I previously made a video on the best updates of 2020. I will link that in the description down below if you guys want to check that out. But for today's video, I want to talk about some things I would like to see in 2021. And a few of these are actually planned to be released. So anyway, let's just get into the video. So me personally, I really do enjoy bossing, and Raksha did come out in December 7th, so this is a really recent and really new boss, and I really do enjoy it. So for me personally, just adding any type of new boss is going to be a lot of fun for me, and that is what I look forward to the most. However, we actually do have a boss planned to be released in 2021. It was planned for 2020, so we might actually see it fairly soon. This is the Elder God Wars Dungeon, basically God Wars Dungeon 3, and this is going to work a lot like God Wars Dungeon and God Wars Dungeon 2. So we're going to have those four bosses in the arena basically, and then we'll later on get another boss, a lot like Nex and Telos, that will probably drop some pretty insane gear or some pretty insane stuff. Well, I'm not really sure what it's going to drop, but we know it is going to be really good. So I'm really excited for this. I really want to see this in 2021, and we're almost guaranteed to see it since it was pushed back to 2021. So I am really excited for that. I do want to talk about the rewards that these bosses could potentially drop. It's going to be really interesting to see. Some things that they could do, they could add a better cape or just some type of better best in slot item that you can use. But they could also add a new weapon. Now, they don't need to go straight up to a new tier, maybe tier 93, tier 94. They don't need to do that. They could go with a tier 80 to tier 90 weapon that has a really powerful special attack. And even though the weapon wouldn't be great itself, its special attack would be pretty useful just for the essence of finality. So this is a really interesting idea. I really do like the way that they did introduce the essence of finality. It does open a lot of different areas where they could go. So they could go this route. They could add a weaker tier weapon that does have a really good spec and add that to the drop table on some of these creatures. That way the weapon wouldn't be basically just never used. It could just be used for the essence of finality for its spec. Now another way they could introduce some new stuff is obviously through some new abilities. Ability codexes have been pretty common lately. Of course, Raksha does drop 3 new ability codexes that do upgrade some new abilities as well as add a brand new one. And then there's also a lot of other more recent bosses that are dropping ability codexes as well. And I really do see them adding more of these, especially for the magic skill, since magic is basically the worst combat style in RuneScape 3 right now. I could definitely see them buffing that with a potential few magic codexes. So in my opinion, that is sort of the direction I think they're going to go. I think they will add some pretty decent weapons. However, they won't be best in slot. You won't want to use them over your tier 92s. But I think they will have a good spec, so that will make them useful just for the essence of finality. And I definitely think they're going to add some brand new abilities as well as some upgraded versions as well. I don't really think they will add another tier of armor or tier weapon right now. I think tier 92 is high enough at the moment. I could see them adding that in the future, but I don't think it is needed right now since we definitely could use some more abilities, especially for magic. Another update that I would personally really enjoy is a new skilling boss. I really do like Big Game Hunter. It's a great way to even train Hunter, and you also get that sort of feeling of bossing. There's some really good drops from Big Game Hunter as well. You can make over 10 mil per hour doing it, so it is definitely worth it. And I would like to see another sort of skilling boss in the game. I really do think they are a lot of fun, especially for skillers who don't really enjoy the PVM type thing. I think it is a nice alternative. They could add it to some other skills. I'm not really sure which ones exactly. I know OSRS has a fire making boss. That would be pretty interesting for RuneScape 3. Since fire making is a pretty boring skill to train, it would be nice if they could add some sort of skilling bosses for those work skills. Obviously, there's wood cutting, fletching, just construction, those kind of boring skills that you can train. It would be nice if they had a more active and a more rewarding way of training them, which I will go into on my next thing that I want in 2020. So along with the idea of adding a skilling boss, I also want some reworks to a few skills, including woodcutting. Woodcutting I find is definitely an outdated skill, especially with the mining and smithing rework. You have all of these new ores that could be used to make some hatchets for this skill. I at least think they should do that. Rework the tier list on woodcutting. They could also just change some things around with the tiers of trees. I do think the skill is just way too outdated and would definitely do really well with a rework. They could do a mechanic a lot like mining where trees do deplete, but basically you will have that stamina bar at the top of your character, and also you will have a progress bar on where you would get the logs. You can also get the rock opportunities with mining. You can have the same thing with woodcutting. You could sort of just implement a lot of the same mechanics mining has with woodcutting, since they are both gathering skills. I think this is a really great idea. Obviously adding some more hatchets would be excellent, since the best hatchet is the crystal hatchet right now at tier 70. So adding some extras would be really nice. Some other changes that I would like to see is rework for fletching and fire making. Fletching is a bit of an outdated skill as well. Sort of the tiers of arrows don't really match up with a lot of things in the game right now. Also, fire making is just a pretty boring skill to train. It would be nice to add a few other ways to train the skill, and hopefully we do see that in the future. These skills might be pretty difficult to rework, especially fletching and fire making. I think there would have to be a lot more thought put into it. I don't really have any excellent ideas right now as to how they would do it, but it would be nice to see a few new training methods in those skills. I also would like construction to be reworked as well, make it a more rewarding skill. However, they did recently release the construction contracts, which is an alternative way of training the skill. So that is a nice little change, nice little update to construction, which I really do like. But it would be nice just to rework a few of these skills, since they are getting quite a bit outdated in the game. Now, my next suggestion for an update for RuneScape 3 in 2021 is adding group Ironman mode. This is something that they did tease a few years ago, but it didn't really go anywhere. I really would like to see this a thing in RuneScape 3. I am really excited about Ironman mode. I definitely am going to start an Ironman at some point. However, it would be really fun if you could have the group Ironman mode where you could play it with friends as well. I think that is the most enjoyable thing about RuneScape 3 is playing with friends. So having an Ironman mode with that would be a lot of fun, just because if you are an Ironman now, you're basically doing everything solo, which I don't find fun at all, but I do really like the idea of just gathering everything yourself. But with group Ironman mode, I'm thinking you could have sort of a group of maybe 2 to 5 players. They could pick any number in between there. So I believe with the group Ironman mode that they did tease is that they did have it set so you would have a group of 2 to 5 players, and you would actually share a bank with those players. Now you can actually add players later on. You'd all have to start your account basically at the same time, which would only make it fair since it is Ironman mode. You do want to make it a bit difficult. But since you do have 2 to 5 players, you would share a bank, and basically you'd be able to use each other's items. You could also, of course, do group bosses together and stuff like that. So that would be a lot of fun. You could sort of help each other out at the same time, which is kind of an interesting idea. I do really like group Ironman mode. It does seem really interesting. They don't even have to do this shared bank idea. They could at least just add the option to do some more social things with 2 to 5 players. For example, just doing dungeoneering with a group of players would be pretty good as well, since solo dungeoneering is pretty rough. I would really like to see this, and if it does come into the game, I definitely would make an account on this and probably even a series, so that would be a ton of fun. I don't really think we are going to get it in 2021 since it isn't announced and we haven't really heard much about it. But I do think it would be a lot of fun, and I really hope they do release that at some point. Now, another update that I would really like to see in RuneScape 3 is the league system. We saw this in old school RuneScape. They had the Trailblazer League, which was really interesting based on a task system, and you also had a lot of relics that provided some really interesting powers. It was basically a competition across old school RuneScape, and it was highly popular. It brought a lot of players into the game, and they actually saw a peak in viewership on Twitch, as well as just the player base skyrocketed. So I would like to see a competition-based system like the old school RuneScape Trailblazer Leagues implemented into RuneScape 3. And last but not least is the RuneScape 3 mobile client. I would really like to see this completed in 2021. We have saw a beta in the past few years that have been released. It is actually released for Android. You can get it on Android. However, the iOS version is not completed yet. There is a few bugs and stuff that they have been working on, but I do think they can complete this in 2021, and I think that would be really beneficial. It might even increase the player base quite a bit, which is something I am pretty excited for about with the RuneScape 3 mobile client. So hopefully this is out in 2021, and this is another update that I would really like to see. So those are all the updates that I'm looking forward to in 2021. Some we are almost guaranteed to see, like Elder God Wars Dungeon, and some updates mentioned like Group Ironman mode may be a bit of a stretch, but overall 2020 has been a pretty great year for RuneScape 3 updates, and hopefully 2021 will be the same.